Aaron Judge spoke to our New York Post Yankees beat writer Greg Joyce, and he went into details about all things Juan Soto. His one season in the Bronx, to him signing that monster deal, to now seeing him for the first time in Friday's Game 1 of the Subway Series. Greg's on now. Greg, I'm going to shut up. Just please take us through everything Judge said, and is there any bad blood you feel like between the two?
No, I think it's pretty much all, friendship at this point is kind of how Judge described it. Judge just been through this process as a free agent a couple of years ago himself, and he found it valuable, I think, to kind of have some space. In that process, you think it's going to be all, as he described it, you think it's going to be all sunshine and roses, but there's a lot of people, kind of pulling you in different directions, trying you to sell you on different things, different teams, all that stuff. So he said he felt like, he thought Soto knew how the Yankees felt about him, how Judge felt about him, and he said he tried to do his part, but largely wanted to leave the decision to Juan Soto because that's a huge life decision that Juan had to make for himself and what was best for him and his family. And Judge was kind of speaking from experience there because he had just gone through this, so he said he largely tried to kind of give him his space, let him make his decision. And then once he did, Judge kind of moved on from it and said, now how can I help him? How can I support him? Because he does still have that friendship with Juan after they spent a year together and obviously had a ton of success batting back to back in the Yankees order. So Judge said, it's not any hard feelings. They respect. He really respected Soto, having him as a teammate, seeing what he did behind the scenes, the work that he put in. Obviously, kind of watching each other. I think they kind of took a little bit from each other's game to kind of help them moving forward. Um, but Judge said he's excited to see him this weekend at Yankee Stadium. They've kept in touch some over the last few months, but obviously they'll be able to kind of see each other walking across the field tomorrow. It's going to be a pretty hostile environment, at least from the fans, I would expect. But I think as far as the Yankees clubhouse is concerned, Judge, there doesn't seem to be any bad blood. I think it's, they respect the guy, respect the player, and respected his decision.
We're talking about two of the kings of New York right now, and there's always that cordial competitiveness when you talk about two legends or two really good baseball players or just athletes in general. But you talk about that bad blood. Juan Soto saying it's 1 versus 50,000. Do you feel like this series is going to be Yankees versus Mets, or is it Judge versus Soto?
I think if anything, if it's any individual, I think it'd be, Soto versus Yankees or Soto versus Yankees fans, because I think that's who's going to let them kind of hear it the most. But when you zoom out, you got two first place teams, two teams that are playing well. And I think that's when the Subway Series is at its best when you got both teams playing well, which is the case heading into this weekend. So, it's a pretty good atmosphere regardless of the context of it, what's surrounding it. But obviously, with the added element this year of Juan Soto coming back to the Bronx the first time since. I mean, most of the guys you talk to in that clubhouse, still consider Juan a friend and respect his game after seeing it up close for the full year last year and what he meant to that team. So I don't think it's Soto versus Judge necessarily, or even Soto versus the Yankees. Probably Soto versus the Yankee fans. But we saw a couple times last year that Soto seems to kind of relish those environments when he has the crowd against him. They went to San Diego last spring or last May, I think it was, and he heard a ton of boos there, and he homered in his second at bat off Yu Darvish. So the Yankees are fully aware what that entails. I think it'll still be a hostile environment, but it should be a pretty good show.
City's going to come alive this weekend. Greg Joyce, great exclusive, and thanks for hopping on with us in such short notice.
You got it. Thanks, Brandon.